Since time immemorial, man has sought and fought for answers to the great questions. Are we alone in the cosmos? Do we have some innate purpose? What are the top 100 greatest anime of all time? After 5 years of our planned anime nights getting waylaid by heated debates, we three friends vowed to set out in search of that ultimate truth. But it turns out spaceships are really expensive. So to raise funds, we're doing a podcast now, rewatching all of our favorite anime and finally getting around to the classics we missed so we might one day forge the ultimate list. I'm Tristan.
I'm Miles.
And I'm Geoff. And this is our quest for the best. Can you tell that there's a new action button episode?
I'm so glad you said it. I was gonna be nice. I'm gonna be like,
hello and welcome to anime.
You know, the funny thing is, I've only watched like 40 minutes of it because it made me think I'm gonna go replay LA Noire first.
Yes,
or maybe just play Phoenix Wright.
I have no desire to replay LA Noire even after watching a decent chunk of that video.
I think actually it might be, I've been listening to Wheel of Time, and that might be what's affecting my vocal patterns a little bit. Who knows?
Fair enough. So to start us off, we have the question of the week. And our question this week comes from Matt in California, who asks, if you could get the perfect adaptation of one manga, what would it be? Bonus points for your studio of choice. Geoff, did you want to start us off?
There's two answers in my heart for this.
Yeah.
There's two.
That's fair. You're allowed.
I think if I listen to my heart the most,
yeah,
the one that I would really want would be Satoshi Mizukami's Spirit Circle by Studio Bones.
Ooh. Why Bones specifically?
Oh, that makes sense.
No, they're very well suited to Mizukami's sort of more simplified and rounded character designs. I think that they would really make the animation rip where it needs to. They're good at sad moments.
Imagine if Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer.
Yeah.
Imagine either of those studios doing Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, though.
Yeah, Lucifer and the Biscuit. Yeah, exactly. You know, like anybody, I mean, literally anybody but the studio that did Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer would have been great. The team doing Sengoku Yoko also wouldn't be bad, but you know, like Bones. Bones. I would die for that. God, that manga made me cry so hard. I mean, all of Mizukami's stuff is masterful in its own way, but Spirit Circle is still, I mean, it was my first and it's still my favorite.
I need to finish it then.
Yeah, I really love the structure. It's got some very nice plot turns, but it's also just got great world building. And like, how far did you get in it?
I only got a couple chapters in. I mean, so obviously one of my favorite manga authors, if only for Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, which is one of my favorite series of all time, in manga form, at least. And so it was on Crunchyroll Manga when it started simulpubbing, and so I was reading it to help promote it and like. But when it's for work, it feels like work, and so I never kept up with it. So I felt bad about that.
I mean, it's beautiful, and I mean, if you didn't get super far,
no,
they do some really interesting stuff with the reincarnation angle as it goes on. The way that the story interweaves through time is very, very interesting. And then like the stories told within each time period, this is making me want to go back and read it again. Just thinking about how good it is.
Is there a problem with wanting to do that?
No, not at all. I like to constantly be on new things. You know, that's my, I don't go back to comfort stuff that often.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, I like just thinking about it is really making me want to go back. And the other like favorite manga that like as a dream project that I would love to see made would be Sanctuary. If like Madhouse could get it.
Ooh.
Madhouse of 2025 or Madhouse of a different era?
Madhouse of a different era. Yeah.
Madhouse of like late 2000s Black Lagoon monster.
Yeah, late 2000s. Yeah, late 2000s Madhouse specifically. Yeah, I don't know what studio I'd go for it now. I don't know if anybody is really filling. I mean, who did Orb?
Madhouse.
Madhouse. Okay, yes.
Yeah. 2025 Madhouse is not bad.
It's still good. I would still mess with that. I guess I didn't really describe either manga that well for people who aren't familiar.
Well, it's also a little bit Sanctuary.
Sanctuary is one of my all-time favorites. I got you on that one, Miles. Right?
No, I've been meaning to. I haven't even watched the OVA. Like, I really need to get into Sanctuary. I'm sure I'm gonna love it.
Wait, there's an OVA?
Yeah. I own it. I haven't watched it, but I own a copy of the OVA.
Okay, well, that has I guess that technically invalidates my answer.
No, because an OVA, a 50-minute OVA is not a real thing compared to like
a 50-minute, you said?
Yeah, 50 for as long of a manga as it is. No, that's not an adaptation.
That's like the prologue.
That's a teaser.
So the premise of Sanctuary is it's about these two guys, one a yakuza and one a up and coming young politician in the LDP, who have made a pact to shake up the broken status quo of Japan and build a new Japan for the young'uns and sort of take their country back from the rich old bastards who control it. One of them does Yakuza stuff. One of them does politician-y stuff.
So Yakuza stuff.
Yeah, which is, but they have to like pretend that they don't know each other. And they're both, they have like a shared past that gets revealed over time. And there's like lots of politicking and it's made by Baronson, who's also the creator of Fist of the North Star. And it's a very, very mature and heady seinen manga with like a lot to say about the whole political situation. I think it was made like right at like the start of the lost decade. So it's a very, very politically charged work. Very, very interesting, like political gamesmanship. And, you know, I think anybody who enjoys the Yakuza games would really, really enjoy it a lot. It's a great, great, great story. And I would love to see, I mean, I would actually like a live action movie. I also wouldn't mind seeing of it. It's that kind of thing. You know, if you took a bunch of actors from the Yakuza games and just made a TV drama out of it, there might be a drama.
There's a trilogy of movies.
Okay, yeah, I should go check those out. Because those probably rip. I just love the manga. It's so good, and I would love it if it was animated. Okay, Tristan,
Yes.
You're in the hot seat now. What's your pick?
I also have two. One, because I'm still not determined on whether or not actually adapting this manga would be a good idea in general. And that is, a part of me would like to see an adaptation of Yotsuba and done by JC staff. Specifically the JC staff of Azumanga like that era, because it's the same author. They have the same sort of vibe and feeling, but I'm not entirely sold on the idea of Yotsuba being adapted in the first place, because I think it as a manga is pretty close to perfection.
Yeah, I mean, that is tricky. You also really have to specify with JC staff. Like really, really specify.
I mean, that's why I said like the era of JC staff surrounding Azumanga Daioh back from like 2002.
So my question is, was that an era of JC staff, or was that just like the specific director and team that they brought on?
Might have been. It might have been specifically that era and team. But I mean, like there are plenty of things that JC staff have done both in that era and like since. Like they also did Toradora, which we're gonna talk about that eventually at some point. So it's like I wouldn't say they're as coin flippy good bad as like Gonzo or anything from that time period, but definitely they leaned more towards good, at least in my mind.
As a Yotsubato adaptation, To is and in Japanese, just so we're clear.
So we're clear, yes.
Just so we're clear. I mean, the people at home need to know it.
Yes, that's fair. That's fair.
But so like JC staff is good, but what about Kyoto Animation? What about the Nichijou team?
The thing is I don't think that Yotsuba has the same kind of energy as Nichijou. Like, I get where you're coming from, and I get why that would be brought up, but the energies and the vibe are very different. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm wanting some level of quality, there is an argument that from a vibes perspective alone, Shaft a la Hidamari Sketch.
Ooh, no. I think Shaft is actually like the perfect.
I think Shaft.
When I bring up Hidamari Sketch, have you watched Hidamari Sketch?
Oh, one of the 4 seasons.
Okay, yes. Hidamari Sketch is basically zero budget anime. Like, very zero budget.
But there's a reason why like people still love that anime adaptation, and it's because there's still a lot of like love and heart and soul to it, even though it doesn't look great, or it doesn't move great, but it looks great.
But there's also like the worry about bringing in Shaft is like, how many, and maybe I'm just completely off base with this, how many great Shaft works can you name that does not have any involvement with Akiyuki Shimbo?
Maria Hollick.
Is that it?
Mono this season.
Oh, Mono specifically. Wait, is Mono?
Mono's not Shaft.
Is Mono Shaft? No, Mono's not Shaft.
Yeah, Mono's
the Ninja Girl one is Shaft.
No. Yeah, sorry, Ninja Girl's Shaft. Yeah, sorry, Mono's not Shaft. Whoever's doing Mono though, I feel like Mono would be like a good the studio doing that right now. Who is that? It's JC staff. I'm gonna laugh.
It might be JC staff.
Soenge. This is their second anime.
I mean, especially considering that Ninja and Assassin is being done by Shaft. I mean, okay, yeah, no, I could see Yotsuba being done by Shaft. The other one is a little bit interesting because my studio pick is not normal. The manga, or in this case, the light novel, is Ascendance of a Bookworm, which A, already has an adaptation that's not good. B, is getting another season adaptation done by Wit, which may be amazing. But we're talking about...
Okay, don't say it's not good. It is a good adaptation. It's just like very low budget. But
season 1 for part 1 and part 2 is a good adaptation, or for just part 1 is a good adaptation. As a reader of the light novels, season 3 is not a good adaptation. It is passable. It is okay. They cut out a lot, and they cut out a lot of really good things. Wit is coming in to do the adaptation of the light novel part 3, and that may be amazing. But in my head, and this is why it's going to be a little bit weird, the studio that I would love to just see, because I see it in my head, is Studio Fortiche, which I'm probably pronouncing wrong, but most people will know as the French animation studio that did Arcane. I'd love to see like a lot of specific parts for like part 4 and part 5 of Bookworm done in the style of Arcane.
Okay, well, I mean, if you want that, but also like realistic, get the studio that's doing, because Studio Fortiche is they're
yeah. This is why it's like we're talking about like dreams. What would you dream to be? And I'm like, this would never happen in real life. Could never happen. But if it could.
But I mean, this like there's the studio that's doing To Be Hero X right now, which is like basically Arcane.
All right, let's see. Who is that studio? B Dream. I have no idea who B Dream is.
They did Link Click. They're a is it Donghua? Is that the
Yeah.
They're a Donghua studio, but they work on anime a lot, which is why it's kind of a meaningless distinction. But can I actually make an alternate pick?
Sure.
Or an alternate pitch to you for an ideal studio
Okay.
or Ascendance of a Bookworm.
Yes.
Right now,
Yes.
based on what I know you are loving on TV right now, which would be The Answer Studio, the people currently making Anne Shirley.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, it also helps that Anne Shirley is really, really freaking good.
It is.
Anne Shirley is like probably best of season. Easy. And also,
I don't know about easy. It's a very, very, very tough season.
I mean, personally, best of season, but it should definitely be up there for a lot of people. Also, I know that we talked at some point previously, probably not on podcast, of best OP. Now that the OP's come out in episode 3, that's also my favorite OP.
No, I mean, we have to acknowledge that the best opening of the season is not Witch Watch anymore. So.
No, there's the thing in the most recent episode of Witch Watch where she casts some magic and accidentally screws it up, and it's the Gengas.
Yeah, no, that was cool. But I still, like, you can't beat Naoko Yamada. You can't.
Yeah, I know, you can't.
Well, actually, you can. Sayo Yamamoto doing Kakiguri or Persona 5, but, you know.
It's possible.
I mean... Yeah, no. Anne Shirley is it's OP of the season. I can't.
No, it's really great. So like to bring it back, actually having the Answer Studio do Bookworm would probably also be amazing. But I mean, the Bookworm as a perfect adaptation will probably never happen anyway because it's just too goddamn big. So,
I mean, Wit Studio is kind of like staking their claim.
They could be
doing better adaptations of things that already have adaptations.
They do, and the thing is like in the popularity of Ascendance of a Bookworm, it is very well known that Part 4 is where its popularity in Japan kind of exploded. Okay, and it was like that change. So it's like trying to get to that point might be enough, and then like once they're there, they have the excuse to continue it. Because if Wit finishes off with their adaptation of Part 3 and actually commits to doing Part 4, I feel like Part 4 will give them enough of a boost and enough of an excuse to potentially go all the way to the end, but I'm not sure.
I mean, yeah, I'm
they
hopeful. Must be planning on it, right? Because like, I mean, you gotta wonder
why it's not left alone in general, because they're coming at it after quote unquote 3 seasons already done. Then they're hopping in here into the game. So you'd think that they'd want to keep going beyond that, but
yeah, you'd think they'd have a plan for it. I mean, it seems like Wit is trying to pick up a lot of like really long-term projects that can sustain the studio, like the One Piece.
I would worry that they're going to be overladen with too much. That's the worry I have. Is Wit is really good, and they've done a lot of really good work, but I worry that like they have too much on their plate.
No, I mean, because Studio Wit's not one studio. They have like 3 production lines. Yeah,
they split off from IG, and now they're like the size of IG. So
yeah,
they're but all I want to say is I wonder if they like saw Mappa take Attack on Titan. They were like, "Ah, damn, we could eat like everybody else's lunch. We could just do the opposite of what Mappa did to Attack on Titan, and just everyone would love us."
Yeah, but I mean, also then they decided to take Ascendance of a Bookworm, which I mean had a lukewarm adaptation to the fan base, at least past season 1. So I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, that's also like One Piece is like, it's a very good adaptation for a weekly show. It's definitely Naruto level. It's definitely not Bleach level as far as the adaptation goes.
And when you say that, you mean 1,000 Year Blood War Bleach, not OG Bleach?
No, I'm saying I'm saying it's not OG Bleach level, because OG Bleach was really good for 1 season and then got terrible.
I mean, One Piece has been so good as an adaptation basically since
1998.
No, since Wano.
So One Piece, like as I understand it, One Piece is pretty good up through like Skypiea.
Water 7. Yeah, Skypiea.
Skypiea is where the
Water 7.
pacing starts faltering, and then like Water 7's really good again, but there's like dips, ups and downs,
Waves on the ocean, you might say.
but then like Whole Cake and Wano are kind of where it really started picking up as like a consistently good adaptation.
Okay.
It is my understanding as somebody who hasn't watched like a lot of it, but Whole Cake is where I started seeing people be like, dude, you got to check out these One Piece fights. They're really popping off.
Well, so Whole Cake is where it started. They started saying, we're going to go heavily stylized. We're going to make this adaptation unbelievably good during the good parts, but they weren't at the level of consistency that they got to until Wano, when Toei leadership is like, oh, people will watch the show more based off of the feedback.
If we have some like good Sakuga every couple
every episode, like they slow down the pace, but they really did a lot to make sure it could feel exhilarating on a week by week basis in a way that it's not that they hadn't been trying that before, but they were really they put a lot more resources into every episode starting in Wano, and they saw it pay off in dividends.
But I do still think that there's like the way that they're doing it creates a lot of room for Wit to step in and do something with better pacing and, you know, just more considered direction. I mean, especially for the early seasons, but even if they catch up to Wano, big if Wit catches up to Wano, I do think that it'll still be worthwhile just for like the pacing condensed and the ability to like plan stuff out in advance. Because the one thing I'll say, like, while the animation of every episode of One Piece in Wano is amazing at some points, it's like as a directed television experience, there's a lot of like, oh, let's flash back or use this cut like before and after the commercial break and stuff like that.
Well, to be honest, before that, one last thing is someone please clip this once we're in our 60s on episode 1800 and tell us how we're wrong about the Studio Wit adaptation of One Piece.
Yeah,
please.
So I'm going to do two, but I'm going to go pretty quick through both of them because I feel like they're some of the most obvious answers in the world.
Okay.
And the first is my favorite manga of all time,
All right.
Inoue's Vagabond.
Okay.
Vagabond is an manga that I never want to see animated because I will only be disappointed. And normally I feel in such that a bad adaptation is still an adaptation. It's still allowing other creatives to build upon the work that I love so much. So normally I would never have any issue with an adaptation.
Normally.
But Vagabond's different.
But Vagabond's different because the art style, the vibes, the emotionality are so hard to move from page to screen. Like, it is a lot of times when you're reading a manga, you're like, oh, I would love to see this animated. With Vagabond, it's one of those manga where I feel, oh, it's this story was perfect for this medium. Now, that may be just because, you know, he's such a great storyteller in manga panels that I feel this way. Like, it may not be like a universal thing or like a truth of any kind, but it's so hard to imagine it actually working.
So like Chainsaw Man?
So like Chainsaw Man, except for I like the Chainsaw Man adaptation a lot more than you do.
No, I like it a lot. I'm not saying I don't like it a lot. I'm saying that like it's a solid really like 9 out of 10 anime and
11 out of 10
the manga's
manga.
an 11. Yeah. It's like transcendently perfect.
The first thought that comes to mind is having Koike direct, the guy who's been doing the Lupin movies and Redline and all that, and have Madhouse era like
I have a lot to say on him as a director, but I am saving it for a little down the line episode? When we get to Redline. I have so much to talk about with that guy. Oh, all right. Anyway.
But I mean, if you're talking about like dream adaptations, Miles, then and Inoue specifically, then surely the real dream adaptation would be an entire full-length TV series and or series of films of the exact same quality as the first Slam Dunk.
Well, so that's kind of the other thing, which is the first Slam Dunk is amazing, and this is why my first thought was having like a Koike situation going on, right? But Inoue directing would be even better because the first slam dunk was such a transcendent experience and showed that, wow, if you just let the person who's the most genius storyteller of the era of our lifetimes, of my lifetime, tell the story, then maybe that'd be like, just let him tell his own story. But, and I think Toei Animation did a great job with the first slam dunk. I think that art style, the like, you know, faux CG, like, or faux 2D CG style, really worked for the first slam dunk, and I think it could work for Vagabond. But I'd rather it be 2D cell animated.
Fair.
Oh man, yeah, like
fair.
like the entire thing done like the classic Berserk anime.
The whole thing done like Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, you know, but with Inoue directing. So like, yeah.
So just like Inoue directing and Kawajiri is just the animation director.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. There we go. So obviously, this is dream scenario, right? Like, this is not a realistic thing. I actually would prefer to never see Vagabond adapted, even though that feels curmudgeonly and rude. If Toei Animation said, we're going to do Vagabond in the style of the first slam dunk,
you would.
I don't know if I would. Oh my God. Yes. I'd cancel all my plans for the week for every episode. My second one, because y'all did two, I'm going to do two, which is Yokohama Shopping Log, which I know neither of you have seen the two OVA episodes for it.
Okay.
No.
The manga was recently released by Seven Seas in full in English, and I'm so happy because I love it so dearly.
All right.
The 2-episode OVA from the 90s is the perfect slice of life. It is the most Tristan core thing I've ever seen in the world.
Then why have you never told me about it before?
I have. It is about a robot. I have. It's about a robot at the end of the world. Tokyo is mostly flooded. The world is mostly flooded, and it's about this android who goes around on her little like scooter, her little Vespa, and she just like goes and drinks coffee and learns how to repair things. Like,
Kenny Lauderdale done an episode about that one?
If he hasn't, he should be taken out behind the shed because this is very Kenny Lauderdale core.
Yeah, because this is sounding like super familiar to me, and I'm Googling it now, and I'm...
What was the name of it again?
Yokohama Shopping Log. Most people just call it the Yokohama Kaidaishi Kiko.
Okay, no, he's done an episode. I've seen.
I'm sure. Like, if not, you've probably seen like moments of this in like what's it called, city pop compilations or whatever. You know,
probably.
It's very vibesy. I would want Studio Ghibli to make a series out of it, adapting the whole anime.
Oh yeah, I can see it.
If we're talking dream scenario, like we got the robots, we got the cute girls, we got the post-apocalyptic world. Like actually having Studio Ghibli do a TV show proper, you know, it doesn't have to be in the style of like of Conan.
For some reason, it also like brings to mind for me Wonder Project J2 on the N64.
That's a deep cut.
I love this manga. No, I love this manga. If you look at my list from our like last year, it's now almost a year old. Our tentative list before we started this podcast, you'll see it's like number 15 on my list, even though it's 2 episodes of like 28 minutes each. Yeah.
So I guess we're doing an episode about this one.
Eventually, yeah. But there's just not much material there. But
It's
the manga is
episodes,
great the whole time. And I just want to see the whole thing adapted. But the thing is, one of the reasons I like it is because it's like the peak 90s core OVA aesthetic. And it's hard to capture that these days. And so I feel like, what if we give it to Ghibli?
Ghibli, I think, Ghibli would handle it pretty well.
Would they, though?
Not the Ronja team, Tristan.
I mean, which team are you? Like, we are in dream scenario here. So which team would you say?
Well, so the dream scenario is we do it 10 years ago and Takahata's directing.
I mean, yes. That is super dream. Because Ghibli has been involved in, what is it, 2, 3 TV series before?
So Ronja is the most recent, I think, and that was a Goro Miyazaki gambit, and it was not very good. But it was also 1, a kid show, 2,
true,
a kid show, 3, it was Goro. Like
Goro has had he's had more misses than hits. I'm a defender of Poppy Hill. I think
love
Poppy Hill's
Hill.
really good.
Yeah.
But wasn't Poppy Hill saved by like other people who helped him make it?
Including his dad,
depending on who you ask.
Yeah, I like with Goro, I mean, we've said this before, but like Goro, my brain always goes back to that's the ultimate C-wordy quote from his dad.
When you mention Ghibli, though, and having them do it, knowing that, like, if they were to do something now, I would worry that it would be more, like, in line with Earwig. And I really don't like the animation style of Earwig, like, at all.
No, we're talking 2D Ghibli.
Okay.
But also, PA Works could do it.
They could.
I would love a PA Works adaptation. That's the realistic version of this.
PA Works would work. I'm also thinking if you're talking like retro vibes, I'm thinking like that first 3 minutes of Ninja and Assassin Under One Roof that Shaft did, where they like really nailed that retro anime style. But it was a darker, more violent retro anime style. So I don't know if they could hit the city pop vibe. So
the other studio that I think would hit this is one, I think they're defunct now. Are they defunct? They might be defunct, which is ACGT, which you might remember as the guys that did the original Kino's Journey.
Yeah.
That's pretty vibey. Yeah. But when's the last time you tried to watch that? Because it plays much better in my head.
4 years ago or so. I watched it when the new Kino's Journey came out.
That was like 7 years ago, dude.
Was that 7 years ago? Man, time.
8 years ago, actually. Yeah, that was 2017.
Was that 2017? Oh, that was 2017. And I mean, even the new Kino's Journey, they used to be called Lachir or Lachur.
Yeah.
The pronunciation was very French. Now they're Studio Hibari. They could potentially do it, but I still would have preferred the vibes of OG Kino than the newer one.
I really can't think of any studio that can like accurately capture 90s vibes anymore.
The guys doing Kowloon Romance.
Kowloon.
I mean, that character design in Kowloon is very 90s, and I love it for that.
Yeah, but the vibe of the show is still
not that. No,
super modern. It's modern retro.
Yeah, it's modern retro. It's like where they're trying to be modern, but do it in a way that definitely gives you the nostalgic feeling that the narrative calls for.
You know what I would throw as an alternate to Ghibli for this thing?
What
would be? It's not 90s vibes, but it kind of arrives at the same refreshing place from a completely different angle. Which would be the team with the same animation style that did Great Pretender.
Ooh. I can kind of see it.
I get where you're coming from. I stand by my original statement, but...
There. You stand by Ghibli still? Okay.
Yeah, all right. And PA Works is the backup. PA Works also 10 years ago, so both Ghibli and PA Works 10 years ago.
So you're talking about people back in time. But if we're talking about people back in time, then why don't you just say... a 90s anime studio that you would love to do it. Like if you could go back in time and have Kare Kano Hideaki Anno direct that instead.
I wouldn't want to take his time away from making the live action Cutie Honey.
True. Oh yeah, live action Cutie. Okay.
He was pretty busy at that time.
No, but if you went back in time and had pre-mental breakdown Anno do it, then he might not have had his mental breakdown and the whole timeline would have been messed up and we never would have gotten Evangelion. And
butterfly effect. Be careful what you wish for. All right. So with that, we should move into our side quest for today, which I know very little about.
Right. Because
today's side quest.
So it's the side quest that I gave to both of you. I didn't really give it... Miles was the one who actually picked it as our side quest.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he only got it because of you, Geoff.
I was the quest giving NPC in this.
You were patient zero in this infection. Yes.
Today's side quest is a fetch quest, and I have already fetched the item, and I have brought it back to all of us to talk about. And now we are going to send Tristan on the same fetch quest. If you
open, because we decided this like 3 days ago, and I'm like, there is no way in hell that I'm gonna have enough time
to
do anything.
You say that, but for the last
one book in 3 days.
So for the last 6 months or so, Geoff, Thew, professional shitbag, has been trying to sell us, and he knew that I was the weaker of the two.
It's been 2 months on this.
No,
only 2 months.
It's been 2 months.
Longer than 2 months.
No. This series, it's been maybe 3, but like
what makes you so confident?
4.
No, I was still finishing up binging it around Japan arc.
Oh,
so it was pre-Japan arc. Okay.
Yeah, no, like I just finished it recently. I just finished getting caught up.
Okay.
So let's
in either case,
it.
We have yet to name it, Miles.
Yes.
So today's fetch quest is an American Isekai Dungeon Crawler Carl. It is wonderful. As you can see in my hand, if you are a video viewer, this is book 5, I think. Yes. Book 5. I started reading 2 weeks ago.
You started reading 2 weeks ago and you're already on.
You're a step ahead of me because you picked up the hardcovers. I'm going to have to do that as soon as I'm back in North America.
Dungeon Crawler Carl, American Isekai. I'm going to let Geoff explain the synopsis because he does a beautiful job of it. The synopsis will scare many of you, and American Isekai will also scare many of you. Please understand that both Geoff and I sacrificed our mental sanity, our work productivity, and anime watching to consume this media. So with that, Geoff,
as fast as possible.
Give it to me straight. What is Dungeon Crawler about in like 30 seconds?
The best sort of way to sum up Dungeon Crawler Carl is it is Sword Art Online meets The Running Man meets The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I mean, you lost me until you mentioned Hitchhiker, but
I should have started with Hitchhiker. It's the good parts of the idea of Sword Art Online.
Okay.
So the
concept of a plan of Sword Art Online.
Yes.
Yeah. So Tristan, the basic premise is that aliens come to Earth to claim all of our minerals. They reclaim those minerals.
Bypass. Yes. Okay.
No. They want the resources. That's the slight difference.
All right.
So they and to get those resources, they suck all of the buildings on Earth into the planet instantaneously. So everybody who is inside on the entire planet when the aliens show up instantly dies. Everybody who is left outside has the option to stay outside on a planet with no buildings. It's theorized that if you were under an umbrella, you also got crushed. It's not entirely clear what the mechanics of what does and doesn't get sucked in are. Yeah. If you're in a convertible with the top down, you don't get killed. Convertible top up, you do get killed. Everybody who has been left on the surface is given the choice of stay on the surface and try to survive with no buildings or cars or anything, or go down into the dungeon. The dungeon is a dungeon, a classic tabletop RPG, Dungeons and Dragons, dungeon crawl type scenario.
So like good, and you can pick it up at your local game store type dungeon, or you just got put at the table run by Gary Gygax and you're playing through Tomb of Horrors type dungeon.
You just got put at the table run by
Brian Gilbert.
Yeah, run by David Gilbert. Run by a psychotic AI copied from David Gilbert's personality.
Hello.
So yeah, so it's a classic dungeon. They got goblins, they got manotars, which are distinct from minotaurs.
Manotars.
It's a man on a man. 4 arms, 2 legs, all chest.
They got meth slinging llamas that spit lava.
So it really hits the llama's ass. No one gets it. I'm
You
sorry.
lost me on
I take that back.
And the AI is extremely horny for our main character's feet. And so make sure that he is never going to receive a pair of shoes in his life.
Cool.
Or pants. But the pants is mostly just because it's funny. So Carl, our hero, is a technician. He works on rich people's boats. He used to be in the Coast Guard. Cool. He had a girlfriend.
All right.
Until approximately
a couple hours.
8 hours before everything went down. When he saw Facebook pictures of her and her sitting on her ex-boyfriend's lap in the Bahamas. Sitting in his apartment, having a smoke, which his girlfriend did not allow him to do. With the window open because he wants to respect Princess Donut, the Queen Anne Chonk, the prize-winning show Persian who lives in the apartment with him. She runs out the window. He goes out to get her in his Crocs, leather jacket, and underwear.
And then the world gets smushed.
The dungeon is a reality show, an intergalactic reality show that is extremely popular. It's the most popular reality show in the entire universe. And you can, the people who watch it, they can follow different dungeon crawlers. So your brand kind of gets stuck as soon as you get popular. If people are entertained by what is going on with you, you get stuck with it. You don't have pants, you complain about not having pants, you're going to never find the pants in a loot drop ever. If you are, for example, talking cat that became sentient 6 hours ago because you ate a magic pet biscuit, and you complain a little bit about how you keep getting torches in loot boxes that you can't use because you don't have thumbs, you're going to keep getting torches forever. In addition,
what I really like... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. In addition, the AI is, in addition to being horny, the AI is sadistic.
So like...
And it is in...
Like GLaDOS sadistic, or...
Yeah, like GLaDOS sadistic.
Okay.
And like GLaDOS, it has a love-hate relationship with the company sponsoring the dungeon crawl this season, Dungeon Crawler World Earth, which is sponsored by the Kuatin Corporation, basically the Volkswagen of a planet run by fish Nazis.
Good old Volkswagen.
And when I say fish Nazis, I mean fish that are Nazis.
Correct. Fish people who are Nazis.
Fish people who are Nazis.
And of course, as we know, aliens were the ones who seeded the planet Earth. There are many human planets in the universe, so there are many humans watching this show as well. They're the ones who, put the pyramids in place and all that. And the AI and many of the dungeon NPCs who are mostly sentient or a mix of sentient have been watching Earth content and learning about Earth culture for like 50 years since, First Contact or what have you.
So small correction. The dungeon NPCs, they wake up as soon as the dungeon is activated, and dungeon NPCs are fully sentient bioorganic creations that are only allowed to exist within dungeon zones by law because their existence is a horrific nightmare of implications. They are fully sentient organic creatures that only exist for the duration of
the dungeon,
of a reality TV show season, and then have their entire personalities and memories wiped and new ones implanted for the next season of the reality TV show or the next episode if they get shuffled down a floor because they're like, oh, well, we need some more goblins, and these goblins, they were taking care of babies, but all of their babies were murdered by somebody.
So
Wink.
One thing, Tristan, that you'll notice.
Yes.
This is a very silly series.
It is, yes. It sounds
Dungeon Crawler Carl does not take itself seriously, except for it very much does. It has its cake and eats it too all the time, right? So the AI is not only like sadistic like GLaDOS and a little annoyed by the corporation running it, but it also is in show business. And so what if GLaDOS was playing for a camera 10 times more? What if GLaDOS was trying to make you mug for the camera as much as it mugged for the camera? So there's that element of it. And then there's the political element of it where Carl, our main character, does not like that humanity has been basically, genocided, and that most of the remaining humans are now getting slowly genocided by this dungeon for the entertainment of others. And so
while the previously genocided humans have their organic material recycled into boss monsters to mess with the people who are running the dungeon.
Lovely.
You need a safe room? Welcome to Arby's. I'm
thinking Arby's.
So the funny thing is, like, the normally I would shirk at all these like pop culture references in a book, especially a fantasy book.
What is this, Ready Player One?
So right, no, but exactly, but it works out so well. Like, we eventually get an NPC who's watching Inuyasha to, that is his whole point of existence at this rate. Like, and that
all he cares about is finding out what happens next on Inuyasha.
And normally that would drive me crazy. Normally I would think that this is like so really stupid. Gauche, but to tell you that even me, Cynical Miles, watch or like listen to the audiobook, which I've mostly been listening to the audiobook. This is actually my first print version. I'll need to go back and fill out the rest of the collection. But like, the audiobook is amazing. It is basically an audio drama. It feels like that was the primary way that this franchise is meant to be experienced. Having read a little bit of the physical book, like it works so well as an audio drama, and I cannot recommend it enough for doing the dishes, going for walks, going for runs, going for hikes,
photoshopping a thumbnail,
ignoring your friends and family, because it is so engrossing. Tristan.
Yes.
When's the last time you binged something?
Pretty recently, actually.
What did you
Not
binge
for the podcast.
Not for the podcast. I'm actually in the middle of binging something. Which is, let me make sure I can pronounce it properly. I'm in the middle of binging Tsukimichi Moonlit Fantasy.
And what is driving you to watch each new episode?
I have no idea.
So that is actually the right response I'm looking for here, because with Dungeon Crawler Carl, I can explain to you like the political ramifications of Carl and everything he does are like the through line that's keeping me like really emotionally invested and like exposing some of the depth and like the ways that it talks about humanity. And like, this is an extremely human book. I love very human stories that feel like they are trying to probe deeply into the human condition. And from everything I've just told you, you probably think it probably can't. You're probably just enthralled and letting that like romantic, like the honeymoon effect make you feel like this is deeper than it is.
But as soon as you get to like the first chapter of Carl reminiscing about that motorbike, you're like, oh, okay, this is like Catcher in the Rye.
I never read Catcher in the Rye.
And that's not even an exaggeration.
It's not. And
I should have read Catcher in the Rye, but I didn't.
Or a Confederacy of Dunces. It is like literature.
The prose is exactly what it needs to be for what it is, right? Again, when I'm talking about it, it is primarily, I feel like the best way to experience this is through audiobook format. And from that perspective, the prose is perfect. Like, we're not winning a Pulitzer here, folks, but like, that's not what it's going for. This is genre fiction, but it is elevated and then elevated again, kind of the opposite thing that happened to All of Earth when the aliens came. So I have been obsessed. I love Dungeon Crawler Carl. I love Princess Donut. I'm a donut hole for life, right? Like, these characters are so wonderful.
Man, I remember asking you when you were in the middle of book one, if I was like, is Donut not the greatest character you've ever seen in a piece of fiction? And you were like, man, I don't know about the greatest. How do you feel now?
No, I still feel the same way. I feel like Donut is like, so they do a really good, so Donut is maybe the best version of a childlike character all of a sudden with sentience, right? So she is a cat. She's 4 years old. She does not necessarily have the wherewithal or the emotional maturity to handle most things because she was just given a heck ton of intelligence, but she's still a cat and charisma. Oh my God, so much charisma.
So much charisma. And she, the one thing she does understand is show business because she was a prized show cat.
Whole room of their 2-bedroom apartment dedicated to her trophies, not to anything else.
She renames herself Best in Dungeon.
Immediately.
Immediately. Because her stats are higher than Carl's, and she gets control of their party name and their titles within the party. As soon as she becomes sentient.
I see.
Within minutes of becoming sentient. Also, most of her personality was formed by watching Golden Girls on the couch.
Gilmore Girls.
Sorry, Gilmore Girls on the couch. Not Golden Girls. Why did I say Golden Girls?
Because that would have been better.
And no, Gilmore Girls. She thinks Gilmore Girls. Actually, the whole book makes a very compelling case that Gilmore Girls is one of the greatest pieces of human literature ever constructed. That is a running theme throughout it, and not just her opinion.
So my question is, should I actually read and or listen to it, or should I wait for the apparent television adaptation in collaboration with Seth MacFarlane's Fuzzy Door production?
No, you see, if it was just Seth MacFarlane's Fuzzy Door Productions making it, I would actually be like, this could be really good. But Miles gave me some very distressing news about that, which
Miles
killed all of my hope for it.
Yeah, I was in the same boat as Geoff, where I'm like, oh, Seth MacFarlane, I love the Orville. That's exactly the right vibe for Dungeon Crawler Carl. What a peanut butter and chocolate combination. And then I looked at the head writer leading up it, Mr. Yost, the head writer of Cowboy Bebop live action. You guys have, between the two of you, about 2.5 hours of opinions about the Cowboy Bebop live action memorialized on the interwebs. If there was ever a case for not getting the source material, not getting it, this is, like I say, a lot of elements of this franchise are crass. They are very easily made into something very you could describe this the wrong way and make something super trashy, stupid, and irreverent, and empty and soulless. It's so easy for a stupid person to describe this book in a soulless fashion.
I can actually envision the scene at the Goblin Meth Den as written by the guy who did the goddamn bidet joke, and it kills me inside.
So don't do that.
No,
Got it.
Don't watch TV.
Although the one thing I'll say is apparently they are working on a full actual audio drama of the series. The people who are producing the audiobook.
Cool.
Right now they announced it at the end of some of the more recent books. They do really good stuff. They make it worthwhile to listen through to the end credits of every book. Miles can vouch for this.
Yep.
But yeah, no, the production values on the audiobook in general are top notch. They got Patrick Warburton. You're not at Patrick Warburton yet, but for the book after the one that you are currently reading, they got Patrick Warburton to play Carl's father.
And that's Dungeon Crawler Carl.
That's Dungeon Crawler Carl. I want to say one more thing about the pop culture references that I think is really important. That kind of is one of my favorite things about it. What makes them not infuriating is, one, they all inform character, and it's not just some nerd being like, here's my favorite
Remember
stuff.
this?
No, like, I mean, Gilmore Girls is the most referenced thing in the entire series. So it's like very much about like the entire texture of humanity through our art. But the other thing about the pop culture references is that they are weaponized, by the AI, which is intentionally trying to make the human participants as uncomfortable as possible while also making jokes constantly, and like really funny but messed up jokes. But two, it's weaponized by the showrunners in really crass ways as both a way of dehumanizing the population of Earth to justify the genocide that they've committed, in the same way that, reality TV shows make everybody in the TV show horrible. So like the pop culture references are like picked out to show the worst of humanity. But then also those pop culture references to show the worst of humanity are repurposed as very, very crass political metaphors by the, again, fish Nazis running the reality TV show to attack their intergalactic political opponents, which is the main avenue through which we get world building about the outer universe, which is kind of crazy. Like there's this whole extended metaphor about a multi-level marketing network that runs through like several levels of the dungeon that is like low-key one of the most elucidating things about the entire universe. But it just starts as a joke about Karens.
We get a whole thing about racism, or we get a whole racist like diatribe, a whole level that's based on this is why you should be racist against these people we don't like. It's not obvious to the humans because they don't have the context for why this is racist, right? But slowly you kind of learn, oh, this is really messed up. This is really like awful commentary, and they're trying to be subtle, and they're almost getting there, but they're not going to get there.
Yeah. It's, I mean, they're Nazis. They're Nazis making Nazi propaganda with a reality TV show. And that is like
killing humans.
There's so many layers to every aspect of it. And it's like anything that I say, I described it accurately. I described it very accurately at the start of this. And it's so difficult to get people into it because it just sounds ridiculous. But like any aspect of it that you're like, that's goofy, when you're actually into it, you're like, holy crap, I didn't know that you could use something this ridiculous in this brilliant a way.
I did, because I watched Gintama.
Okay, this is true. We've watched Gintama.
That's the thing. If you like Gintama, the same vibes of you go from laughing to crying in the space of 2 minutes about the same topic. Like, not necessarily the poop, who can wipe their butt with sandpaper the first, but like, we're almost at that. Like, a lot of things in this series remind me of Gintama in that way. So, Tristan.
Yes.
Have we sold you?
I mean, I guess I'll check it out.
We bullied you. We didn't sell you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It will sell you itself, though, within
very
minutes.
quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
We might come back to it.
We must move on to our main quest for the week, which is ReZero, starting life in another world. One of the greatest isekai anime of all time, if not the greatest. I would personally argue the greatest isekai anime of all time, and have done so extensively in a very long video essay / top list.
Best isekai anime, probably. Best isekai story? No.
Best isekai period.
No. Hard disagree.
Fight me, mine. It's not isekai. It's lit RPG. It's different.
Lit RPG.
Oh
I let you get away with that. It's Naro style contemporary fantasy, Miles.
Yeah. Okay. So Sword Art Online is not isekai either, right? That's right.
No, Sword Art Online is isekai because they go to another world. I mean, I guess the Scolopendra levels are another world.
Is the dungeon
not the
itself
dungeon?
not another world?
We're still talking about Dungeon Crawler Carl.
We're not anymore. We're going.
So we're gonna do the non-spoiler section for ReZero first, which is going. Actually, I think we're gonna have more non-spoiler stuff to say
for
than
maybe
usual.
Maybe not. For a show that is almost a decade old now, because it was 2016,
But not halfway over.
Correctly. But not. Yeah, but not. It's what is considered spoilers for something that's almost a decade old? Is it like first arc, couple of first episodes? That's fine.
The thing, you could say what
Pre-mansion.
You could say what happens in the first half of like half the arcs and still not spoil that much.
I mean, really, that is absolutely correct. The setup for every arc prior to everything from every arc's loop 0 is fine.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like Higurashi, where you could it's very much like Higurashi in a lot of ways, if you really think about it.
Yeah, it's Higurashi if somebody actually remembered everything.
So, Natsuki Subaru is a loser. Just a real sad, nerdy guy, likes anime, likes manga. He goes to his local convenience store to read Shonen Jump and consider maybe not paying for it. I don't know. Goes to get some snacks to come back to his home, play some video games, watch some anime, masturbate, and then not go to school tomorrow. But in the middle of that, he blinks. He blinks, and suddenly he is in the land of Lagunica, a fantastical city with beastmen and carts driven by dinosaur chicken horses. And elves and regular humans, and just all the fantasy stuff you'd like. Gorgeous architecture, absolutely stunning, just amazing, beautiful
tracts of land,
fantabulous. It's a really, really pretty city. If you're used to your typical isekai with the place around the river,
the circle city with the river running through it. Yeah.
Like, this is a very resplendent capital city. It feels like the capital city of a grand empire. Anyway, he shows up. He's like, where's my cheat powers? Where's my hot wife? He wanders around a bit, not having cheat powers, not having a hot wife, almost gets stabbed to death in a back alley by some random mooks, but then he's rescued by a hot waifu, Emilia, a gorgeous half-elf girl with ice powers and a talking cat sidekick. And he's like, this is it. This is my destiny. This is who I'm supposed to be with. She's so kind. She's so beautiful. He gets to know her. He spits several half-elf related microaggressions at her accidentally, but doesn't mean nothing by it because he doesn't know that half-elves have some real bad racism going at them in this universe.
I mean, he should know because historically, in almost every fantasy world, half-elves are the subject of some semblance of racism.
Not to this degree. Not to
depends on the fantasy you read, honestly.
Like this is the degree of like,
this is not D&D where everyone wants to be a half-elf to get the best of both worlds.
And also not, she gives him her name. She says her name is
Satella,
which he thinks, oh, that's her name. But like, actually,
they never explain that. I don't think anyway.
So actually, if half-elves are like Germans, then she just said my name is Adolf Hitler. She was messing with him.
It's springtime for Amelia and Subaru.
And that ends up being how he passes the vibe check, though, because she's like, oh, well,
you're okay with that.
You're okay with that. And she's like, wow. So They go around this lovely town for a little while. Her pin gets stolen, which is very important to her.
Mm-hmm.
She needs to get this emblem back for reasons that have yet to be explained. So they chase the orphan ragamuffin that stole it into the slums of the city. They go to this old tavern to talk to the innkeeper about maybe getting this thing back and negotiating with the ragamuffin. The door opens. Suddenly, Emilia's on the floor, and Subaru's on the floor, and all of his guts are also on the floor.
On the floor.
And then he blinks, and he's standing in the town square where he woke up.
Specifically in front of the same food stall, which has a reputation now.
In front of the same, in front of the Apple vendor who called him a stupid asshole in the previous timeline, and now calls him a stupid asshole
In this timeline.
No, he called him a broke asshole in the last timeline, and then in this timeline, he's like, "Oh, you're a stupid asshole who can't process words. Get out of my way." And he goes and he's trying to find his waifu. He's like, he runs into those mooks again in the back alley. He's like, "Hey, you stupid mooks, you get out of my way. I got important things to do." So they stab him to death. And then he starts off at the fruit cart again. And he's like, "Oh,
that's
I
not
guess
good.
I do have a cheat power." Uh-oh.
Both the best and the worst cheat power, depending on how you look at it.
So then we get into a world of noble succession. We get into a world of great fantasy. We get into a world of demons is not the right word.
The best way of describing it is we get into the world of who is best girl.
Witches and cultists and the wizard KKK.
That's a good way of describing them. Yeah. So it's a fantasy isekai with a time travel element, being that instead of getting superpowers, our main hero, Subaru Natsuki, is a normal human, normal general powers. However, every time he dies, he goes to a previous save point that was determined by who knows, and changes over time as he tries to find the quote-unquote perfect timeline to exist within.
And crucially, he cannot tell anybody that he can do this.
He's physically not able to do it. If he tries, it feels like his heart is being squeezed out.
No, I mean, a magic witch hand comes and squeezes his internal organs.
Yeah, he can't do it. He's not able to.
If he tries hard enough, he will actually bleed internally and stuff.
He'll bleed internally, he'll die, and then he'll show back up at the previous save point. That's how it is going to work. He's not allowed to tell anyone.
Yeah, so Higurashi is a very apt comparison. It is a time loop. It's a time loop.
A series of time loops. Yeah.
A series of time loops where he dies horribly, tries to figure out why he died horribly, figures out why he died horribly and dies horribly again because he still can't do anything about it, tries to figure out how to do something about it, dies horribly.
And then maybe he figures it out.
Tries to speed run doing something about it, accidentally says a bunch of racist stuff to the woman that he's trying to impress, and she hates him, and he dies horribly again.
And they make sure to lock in a lot of his biggest mess ups.
The thing that I love about this portrayal or this version of time travel is that they really do like to build in how slight changes can have massive consequences, in that not only do you need to figure out, you as an audience, not only need to figure out what Subaru has to do, but also you can slowly start to notice between loops how Subaru acting differently or saying a different thing changes how other people will react to him. So it's not even just a matter of, oh, well, this person already likes Subaru. It's like, okay, but why do they like Subaru in one loop? And did that still happen again in another one? Because if it didn't, and he assumes they're good, they're not good. And that'll be a problem later on. So I like how the narrative is able to take that and kind of run with it for at least parts of it. They stop doing it later. But
well, I mean, the reason that
I have
that
problems
works,
with season 2. We'll get there.
I mean, the thing is, the reason that the narrative is able to do that initially is because Subaru is one of the densest individuals.
He is. He's real
in
dumb.
all of fiction. He does not understand social cues. He does not really pay attention to what he himself is saying or what other people are saying.
The worst parts, and again, this leads into like season 2 related problems that I have. The worst part is when there are times where what he needs to do is almost explicitly told to his face, and it takes another 3 or 4 loops for him to realize, oh, that's what I should have done.
And that's why ReZero is one of the... Well, no, so this is why ReZero is one of the best of all time. Because it has the most garbage main character who has incredible character progression.
I mean, I can think of some more garbage ones, but yeah.
Well, no, but it's like he is garbage, and he is like the most amount of garbage you can stuff into someone who is still a likable protagonist, right? And I know a lot of people can actually not get past all of his flaws, and I think that's totally valid. But even if you don't like him as a character, he gives you enough reasons to care about him as a protagonist, even if you dislike the person. And again, the progress being 2 steps forward, 1 step back is the most human and realistic character development. And a lot of times, especially early on, it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back, right? And that's like so incredible. I really want to talk about one thing, which is Groundhog Day was one of my favorite movies growing up. Still is one of my favorite movies.
Here we go.
And one of the things I loved about Groundhog Day was not specifically even just Groundhog Day itself, but instead the theory crafting one could do with your friends about Groundhog Day, right? Mm-hmm. So like what you envision, like, oh, like he has this one-sided relationship with Rita where he knows everything about her, loves her now. First it was like an infatuation, then it was like a quest, or then it was just like, I can do everything in town except for not you. But then, it turns into something deeper and more meaningful from his side. But from her side, it's still been just one day. And so getting her from A to Z is impossible until it's not. And one thing I love is, especially in like Arc 2 at the mansion, there are all these moments where Subaru realizes he's treating everyone like an NPC to begin with. But eventually he develops real organic feelings for all these characters, not just like the hot girls, but, especially the hot girls. And then when they're like, they hate him, it kills him on the inside. And it's the kind of like speculation, like the logical extension of the Groundhog Day scenario played out in the way that I had always wanted to see from media. Mm-hmm. And there are so many different Groundhog Day things, but none of them have explored in such a human way just the loneliness of being the only one who really remembers. And like, this is why I don't understand how you don't like season 2 and not being able to talk about it. And this is why, like, Tristan, when you say you don't like season 2, it's crazy to me because
it is baffling.
About that.
I mean, we can get to that. We can get to that. And I did say season 2, not arc 2, just so that doesn't get confusing. So to build on that slightly, but also to go back to Subaru is a piece of garbage, because he kind of is. What I will say about like people who can't get over him, going back to when this show came out, a comparison that I made internally a lot was comparing Subaru to Kazuma from Konosuba, because which is very appropriate because it is very appropriate. Friends. I know. So like looking at them, I feel like they were pretty much on par for levels of garbage. But to Miles's point, the more that he started like coming not coming to grips with like where he is, but like coming more to understand and develop relationships with the other characters in this world, and the more he started to care about them, started to elevate to me Subaru over Kazuma, because I feel like Kazuma never got out of treating literally everyone like garbage.
I mean, the thing is, you don't have to like Kazuma. Like it's this very interesting.
It's almost better if you don't.
Like, I mean, yeah. Konosuba is like, I don't entirely like the Always Sunny comparison, but Konosuba, he's Charlie in Always Sunny, right? Yeah. And a little bit Dennis. He's a little bit Dennis in Always Sunny.
I think he's more Dennis than Charlie.
Yeah, you're right. He's more Dennis. He seems Charlie at first, and then he's Dennis. But yeah, Kazuya or
Kazuma. Hi, Kazuma desu.
Kuzuma.
Kazuma desu.
Yeah. Why did I say that? Kazuma is a piece of poop, and that's the joke.
Subaru is a piece of garbage and learns to not be a piece of garbage, and that's his arc.
Well, does he?
Subaru. No,
he rejects some of the tendencies.
No, I would say that by season 3, Subaru has learned to not be a piece of garbage. Subaru is like
he has learned how to, but that doesn't mean he's completely
he actually is
excised that. But by season 3, yeah, he's a good person.
I mean, he has an arc to become a legitimate hero. But like what I find really compelling about him is you know, he is garbage, right?
Yes.
But he's also like a very sympathetic and understandable type of garbage. And he's the kind of garbage person that like somebody who is in his situation, who's just like watching anime and enjoying isekai anime, won't pick up on at first. And his arc kind of goes through the like, what am I doing wrong? Why do people hate me? Right. And instead of just shutting down, going to his room and playing video games and not dealing with it, which is how he processed that in the real world, he's in a scenario where he literally will not stop dying horrible deaths until he deals with it. Figure out what he is doing that is making all these hot women around him hate him.
But that's also kind of a flaw of his character, right? Like him like saying, oh, I'm going to sacrifice myself. I'm going to suffer for you, Amelia, or for you, Ram. Like, is like why he's a piece of garbage. But also, to this point, I actually think the reason why ReZero works so well is if you never turn around on Subaru, I think you're valid. Like, if you hate Subaru the whole time, I think you're valid, and I think the story still works just as well. Because it's not about him being a good person is not the point of ReZero, or him being likable, right? It's about him overcoming.
Yeah. But I would say that, I mean, he's still got a lot of stuff to work on, but I would say that by part 3, like he is
part 3 or season 3. I know
season 3. Sorry, by season 3. By season 3, he has learned that sacrificing himself for other people still puts a burden on them. Mm-hmm. He like really, I mean, season 2 is about him. I mean, the end of season 1 is about him starting to understand that. Season 2 is about him really coming to terms with that, understanding that. And like, I love how the parallel timelines explanation that comes in, that it's like, oh, you're not resetting time. You are creating different world lines every time you go back. Works as this metaphor for I'm still hurting the people I care about every time I hurt myself. Yeah. And say that it's for them. And that, you know, that is better than what he was doing before, which was just expecting people to thank him for existing and doing the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially when you consider that since he can't tell anyone that he has those powers, as far as they're concerned, this is loop 1, because there is no loops. So when he comes and does things and knows things, they just assume that, okay, well, that's just what he does, right? They don't see how he got there.
And he's got to be careful about not revealing like stuff, because he can seem like he's a stalker or something freaky like that, or he knows a guy who's coming up to this random woman in the middle of the street to shout a hate crime at her in the second episode. But like by the third arc, he does understand fundamentally that like he has to love himself, right? And he's on that like journey of trying to take care of himself, not just throwing himself away for other people, and trying to find better solutions. And there's a shift in how the entire narrative dynamic of the third season works that reflects that character development. And that's one of my like favorite things about the series so far. And I mean, I say that as somebody who was already on board with what Miles was saying about the Groundhog Day theory crafting. It's so fun from that perspective. It's such a great power fantasy and escapist fantasy from that perspective of like, I love seeing an author finally explore these ideas. But now, like, you know, you get into this development and Subaru is one of my favorite characters in all of fiction because like his flaws are very believable and they're never too extreme. I mean, he is the kind of guy who would really, really creep at least a few women out at an anime convention, right? But he's also the kind of guy
out in this anime.
No, but like I'm saying, he's also the kind of guy who, like, in the context of you don't have any female friends at the anime convention with you, you could see yourself having a spirited and kind of fun conversation about Yu Yu Hakusho with him, maybe.
So I would say for the first 2 seasons, he has goodness in his heart, but he's most like on net a bad person. By the end of season 2, I think he finally crosses the threshold into being a good person. But there's always goodness in his heart. Like, he's a good dude. Before then, I would be like, oh yeah, that's Subaru. He's like, yeah, you need to be careful around him type of thing. But like, he's fun, right? He is a very frustrating person, which makes him such a perfect character. And the fact that all of his flaws mirror the target audience of this show so well. And like, I really feel like there's like a lack of self-reflection in the anime fandom if they can get through season 2 and not change as people, which it's like, maybe I'm being a little too critical, but a lot of people,
it's fair.
A lot of guys in general, like, really main character syndrome themselves into a situation that like they only see themselves in the good parts of Subaru and not the bad. And that's one of the reasons why I've seen so many people get frustrated with especially season 1 of ReZero. And then by season 3, Subaru's no longer the main character. He's like the co-main character. And that also reflects where he's come to. And like, I've watched season 3 very recently and I've been binging it. So like, you guys watched it when it came out, more or less, or Tristan, you watched it?
I binged it when the final 2 episodes were airing. I waited, because I knew I would not be able to watch that week to week.
I had not watched season 3 because I hadn't finished season 2 from like my wife and I had watched half of it and then we moved or something. Like, stuff always happens when I'm watching the best things in my life. But watching season 3 and seeing Subaru no longer be the point of view character in the same way that he was for seasons 1 and 2, I'm like, oh my God, the narrative is even working around this. Like, this is truly more than just the concept of Groundhog Day to its logical extreme. This is, what if it was peak literature too?
Yeah, he's like peak, like separately peak epic fantasy and peak literature, which kind of makes it a very good point to have a Dungeon Crawler Carl side quest on. But I mean, so I would kind of quibble with, I would say he's not a bad person in season 2. I would say that in season 2, he is a somewhat neutral kind of dipshit who means well and is working on himself.
Yeah, especially
goodness in his heart.
Especially considering the cliffhanger of season 1. I would say that he's like moved into not being a bad person by the end of his Hikikomori arc, which is essentially what the whole White Whale saga is him like confronting, retreating into himself and moving past that. Yeah.
I could be convinced by that. Yeah.
I buy into the philosophy. I'm trying to think of, I can't remember the work of fiction. There aren't bad people. There are people who do bad things by how they exist. And there are people who do, there are people who naturally do more good and there are people who naturally do more bad. but I wouldn't say that Subaru is a bad person or unworthy of love at any point in his story. I think that he is his own worst enemy.
Yeah,
and
those are two
he lets
different
that affect
things.
a lot of other people through all of season 1. And
So,
then
when I say he's a bad person, that's on net. I think, like I said, there's goodness in his heart, and he is always deserving of love. I do think even the worst of us are deserving of love. And again, he's a kid. So I also give him the benefit of the doubt there. Like when we see him being a complete piece of garbage, like there's like those episodes in Arc 2, like in like episode 15 or 16, 17 about season 1, where he's just like awful when he's embarrassing him, like locking in all the ways he's embarrassing Amelia and negatively affecting her chances of having any success in her life and like her bid. Like that stuff is so, and he knows what he's doing is destructive, and yet he doubles down at every opportunity to like be a good person, right? So like I'm saying on net, he is so self-motivated and so self-absorbed that he cannot be a good person. But yeah, I'll give you that. Like by season 2, he's not a bad person, but there's always that goodness in him. And I do love that about him, which is why I was rooting for him, even when I'm like, this dude is a jerk. This dude is the worst. I was still rooting for him.
Fair enough. All right, so moving away from the roast of Subaru Natsuki, we're definitely going to move into spoiler section now because I need to either explain, defend, and or get roasted by the two of you for my upcoming thoughts when it comes to season 2. So I have 2 major problems with season 2 of ReZero, one of which arguably is more of a problem with season 3, depending on how you look at it, but I still attach it to season 2 because it's in my head. The first one was kind of already negated partially by our talk about Subaru's arc, which is within season 2, Subaru makes his own personal kind of declaration to both him and Roswell that, all right, no, I'm not looping anymore. I'm not using that. This is the loop that's going to do it. I'm locking in. We're doing it here. We're doing it live. And that's like the almost like half of the season is that loop. And a part of me, like from his arc perspective, I get it and I am appreciative of that. But from the part of me that loved how the narrative utilized the loop to tell both the story in general and then also build upon the world with how he interacts with people. So I didn't mention the character's name before, but when we're talking at the start of season 2 and Subaru first meets Garfield, who I keep wanting to call Garfield, as in lasagna wielding cat. When he first meets him, it's like his first
that's
loop
intentional.
With him. I know
that is intentional. He is a Garfield reference. So his first interaction with Garfield in his first loop of that arc was very positive. And then past that loop, it's almost all negative. And the fact that he doesn't understand is amazing to me. And it's because like not only is it like a little mini mystery for Subaru to figure out why the hell that this guy doesn't like him anymore, but it's also like a little mini mystery for us, the audience, to try and figure out, okay, well, what did he do in that loop that he didn't do in other loops? Or vice versa, what did he do in loop 2 and beyond that completely turned Garfield off of him? It's like things like that are what I really loved about season 1 and what I loved about the start of season 2. And then to not have that in the latter half of season 2, because we've kind of stopped doing loops, was a little disappointing. And then moving into season 3, there are loops in season 3. But it is kind of made a point of one of my favorite aspects of season 1 of ReZero and ReZero as a whole is Return by Death. And the fact that it is losing relevance the further the narrative goes on is a disappointment to me.
I don't think so. So
okay.
One, the most important thing is the fact that Subaru is living in the moment is such a big shift for him.
As I said,
not exploiting it, right? That part is
as
cool.
I said, for his art, I understand it, and I'm appreciative of it. I can still be disappointed that we lose it.
No, but the thing is, it's not gone forever. I am fully convinced that in future arcs, it's going to be utilized in a lot of crazy ways because
I've been told
been such a
Nobody
pull
needs
away
to
from
tell
it.
us. Nobody needs to tell us.
I
know.
I have not been told. I don't know. But like,
I don't know
narratively
details,
speaking,
but I know. I don't know details, but I know.
But like structurally, it just makes sense that like they pull away from it to like emphasize his character growth and how his different way of approaching problems. That it's like something that he does use it in season 3, but only at the start to like figure out that puzzle fight.
Yeah,
where
it's
there's
like there
the
to help.
very specific rules of how the witch cult powers work, and he's got to figure that out so people don't die.
Yeah, but it's very clearly used as a, okay, here's the point to let you know that, by the way, Subaru just spent the last whole year never getting looped, and now he's looping again and somewhat innerly freaking the hell out because he's like, oh no, I'm looping again. And he needs to figure that crap out. But it's not as relevant as it used to be.
well, but the thing is, it's super relevant by him not doing it.
Yeah.
Every moment that he's not looping, I'm like, oh, like one thing that I don't like about other time loop stories is that the loops don't feel like they have much significance for the other characters who are not being looped.
That. So in season
ReZero
3,
does a good. Well, no, but ReZero does a good job of making it meaningful for Amelia, making it meaningful for everyone else. Even when it's a looping, you know it's a looping. You know none of this is going to stick. It still feels meaningful.
And to that point, I do get it because, like in season 3, Subaru physically gets messed up, and if this was still season 1, you'd be like, okay, this is going to be fine because as soon as he loops, none of these injuries are going to stick. Except we're in a point now where he's not going to loop anymore. So this is sticking. And that's almost like I can appreciate that. I like that a lot when it's made clear of, hey, he's not using his one cheat power, and that can be a problem. That's why I loved the cliffhanger at the end of season 1, where it's like, who's Rem? Because he can't go back anymore. He can't use his power to fix the things that he wants to fix. I like that utilization of it.
I mean, it sets that up so well with him having the same thing where he can't go back and fix the relationship he destroyed with Amelia. He's got to rebuild it. At the midpoint of the story. Like there's a lot of very good setup and payoff of like, here's the rules for how this works and doesn't work. And now we're going to twist the knife with that. And there's a really good one of those at the end of season 3 as well, in a very interesting way. But man, I understand being disappointed with the time loops going away the same way I kind of felt disappointed a little bit when they stopped doing Hamon in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. But at the same time, like it's an idea
that got replaced by stands.
And stands are cooler, or stands got cooler about halfway through Stardust Crusaders, I would say. Once they got through the kind of boring stand ideas,
burned through those ones.
So I understand where you're coming from a like, I really like this narrative gimmick, right? I really like the narrative gimmick of, and there's still legs to it, right? There's definitely still new things they can do with it because there are so few stories that have done time travel even remotely this well. It's kind of, loop time travel specifically, and Higurashi, but Higurashi in a different way. Also, Higurashi is like all locked in on different characters reacting differently and why, but that's a whole other thing. But I get that, but at the same time, in season 2, when he walks in and he's like, I'm not looping anymore, and that adds so much stakes to the story and it makes things more dramatic. And in this season, he doesn't make that declaration. Looping is on the table again, it feels like, right? But he's still trying as hard as
trying to avoid it.
And
because he knows the consequences of it now, because he knows that if he loops, he might not loop to where he needs to be, and he doesn't know what's going to happen, and that could be worse for him.
Yeah, or he might undo something that he's accomplished if there's a lot of unknowns, right? And it's as bad as as just dying in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Like I do get it, because I have been told a lot that yes, the looping comes back with a vengeance in later arcs. I've brought this up before, and people have been like, "Oh wait, oh just wait," and I'm like, okay,
I mean, I'm sure, I'm very confident that it will. Right? It's too good not to bring back.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is.
At the same time, not looping allows the epic fantasy story and the world building to develop a lot faster, right? The looping allows for very in-depth world building.
I do feel like that leads into my second point. So finish off what you're saying, and then I'll segue.
I feel like there's that moment in season 3 where he loses his leg, right?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, a loop's coming up. And then and falls in the river and drowns. I'm like,
no, as I mentioned that, yeah, no, he gets messed up in season 3,
and he wakes up and he's got his leg back, and it's like, okay, it looped, and I'm like, oh, it didn't loop, and I'm like, oh wait, what's happened to his leg? Oh no, it's worse.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's so much worse. Like, it allows for these developments of the horror and the fantasy, and I think ReZero, in addition to being top 1 isekai of all time, is like top 3 dark fantasy, right? I would put it right up there with Berserk.
Would you put it above Berserk?
In terms of anime?
In terms of anime adaptations, yes.
Yeah.
In terms of like the overall dark fantasy saga, maybe. It's very good.
Yeah.
But like differently,
Yes.
But I'd put it at the Berserk level, right? In terms of a story.
And horror and world building. Yeah.
Well, I think it's got Berserk beat in world building. Like, I actually think that the fantasy world of ReZero is literally as good as it gets for world building. Go ahead. I know you had a point about season 2.
It's a point about season. It could arguably be a point about season 3. So, a decent chunk of season 2 went in a bit of a different direction, in that everything revolving around the Witch's Tea Party. Mm-hmm. Here's my problem. I don't have a problem with the Witch's Tea Party. I think that it is great. I think that Echidna is a wonderful character. I feel like every witch that they introduced during the Witch's Tea Party is great, and I wanted them to have more screen time. The thing that I don't like is that all of the witches of the Witch's Tea Party had such relevance within the arc of season 2, and then you get to season 3 and they don't exist. They're gone. They're not mentioned. They're not really brought up. They don't exist, and it bothers the heck out of me.
They're trapped in a pocket dimension. Why would they come back? It's so far away from the pocket.
To me, it doesn't matter, because it's like they had so much relevance and so much importance to the plot. So for them not to be brought up or mentioned or even referenced, this is possibly more of a problem of season 3, in that parts of season 3 almost make me feel like you could have jumped from a part of season 1, or like near the end of season 1, to season 3, and barring like some personal changes within Subaru's actual arc that he developed during season 2
and Amelia's arc.
Yeah, but like from the world itself.
Well, no, because Amelia's not the same candidate between seasons 1 and season 3. Like, Amelia's not a character until season 3 in the same way. Like, she's an amazing character from the start. But like,
I'm not talking about the characters.
Amelia becomes a hero in season 2.
I'm not talking about the characters. It is from the world. The world almost feels like season 2 didn't really happen.
Trust the process.
But yeah, the whole point of season 2 is, one, we get the deep world building cut off from the rest of the world, the stuff about the witches that has been thoroughly buried within Lagunican society. Like, I mean, it's cult stuff. It's like the deep secrets that you can't have access to in nightly company. It's the estranged outcasts of society, the beast folk, who are literally racially segregated, living in their own private community. There's like, we're developing another side of the world, darker underbelly,
and I love
in a
all
very
of it.
literal sense. Okay, so a few
And that's
things,
part of the
right?
problem.
But
I love it so much that I'm
hold up.
disappointed that it's forgotten
Tristan,
about.
hold up. So it hasn't been forgotten, for one thing. It is immensely relevant, not just to Emilia, not just to Subaru, but to Bayako's arc, to some very deep spoilers. Very deep.
We're already in
spoilers.
spoiler territory.
No. Very deep spoilers.
As in, you're going to talk about things unadapted?
No, I'm not.
We're not there
going to
yet.
talk about anything that's outside of the anime, but Echidna is doing stuff.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
There is stuff
Trust
happening.
the process.
Trust the process. It's an epic fantasy story, and we are like not even a third of the way through. I don't think.
About a third of the way. No,
Okay.
we're about a third of the way.
It's there's a lot happening, and it happens in that pocket dimension. A, to isolate the characters and put them through a crucible, and B, to show us parts of the world that are bubbling under the surface the whole time, right? In the same way that the witch cult was there from the very beginning, even if those Subaru didn't become aware of them until arc 3 of season 1. Echidna's machinations have stretched back all the way through season 1, and they are stretching through this season and forward in time.
Can you at least understand the frustrations that I have of we waited a very long time between seasons 2 and 3, only for some of my favorite parts of season 2, which is Echidna and like all of the witches, to not even be acknowledged in season 3. Yes, I get that there is the trust the process, and if they don't show up, that would be an amazing crime in later arcs. And I get that, but I wanted something a little bit more concrete as far as what they are either doing or trying to do, or something to acknowledge their existence within season 3.
Beyond, you mean Bayako being like talking about Roswell, her relationship with Roswell, overcoming her.
That's more of her arc. I would argue that's more of her arc. If Roswell was there, because he leans more into Echidna based on his backstory, but I would argue that Beatrice has kind of gotten beyond that. Like, yes, she has history with Echidna, yes, and we learned that back in season 2, but I feel like her and her arc has moved beyond that, and I'm fine with that, but there's like not really a reference to it.
There's also the fact that the other witches they're pushed absolutely to the periphery whenever the Witch of Envy and the witch cult come into play, because that emphasizes Satella's power and the power of the cult as this separate antagonistic force.
I suppose, but like season 3 takes place within this town where the history of this town is that they have apparently a witch's corpse in the center of it. And at no point does anyone be like, hey, Subaru has talked to that witch recently. Maybe there's something going on there. And it's like not mentioned or brought up. It's just the fact that no, the corpse is there. We're just going to say that is the reason why they're all coming in, but we're not going to work with that. And I wanted to work with that. I was expecting them to work with that.
But they probably would have if a bunch of terrorists didn't show up, flood the city, and demand all of that stuff. And here's sort of my counter. Like, I love the witches too, right? Like, they're such a great part of season 2.
Not only that, but they're such a brief glimpse in season 2. We spend so little time with them. We spend just enough. Like Echidna, we spend a lot of time with, but like the rest of them, we spend just enough to like showcase who they are and what their deal is, but not enough to really dig into them.
Tristan, you're spoiled. You're so spoiled. Every character, literally every character, this is one of the reasons I love ReZero so much. Every character gets that treatment, gets that depth, gets that like, oh, not only do you learn so much about them the moment you meet them, but you can see that there's layers and layers. They're all ogres. They're all onions. You can tell.
They're all an ocean unto themselves. And to this point, to Miles's point, while I miss the witches, right? But
I do.
I would I for a second lament missing the witches if it meant I did not get the time to get to know Capella Emerata Lagunica or Sirius Sirius Romani Conti or Regulus Corneus lie biting Kaitos and his
I mean,
brother.
I would rather
you
get
know,
more
like
witches than anything related to like Anastasia or
Really?
like that.
no.
Yeah.
Okay,
I missed Anastasia in the first half
honest.
of season 1 or season 2. Yeah,
Yeah,
I missed her and Priscilla. Like during the
yeah,
second.
Priscilla. Yeah, no.
I did not say I would prefer the witches over Priscilla. I did not say that.
How can you say to Miles, that you would get rid of Anastasia?
Not that I would get rid of it, that I would prefer more witches stuff over her.
The capitalism hoe. You would get rid of the capitalism hoe.
All of the candidates for the royal procession are unbelievable. All the people working with them are amazing. Like, I miss Reinhardt every time. Like, whenever Reinhardt wasn't on screen, all the characters in my head were saying, well, where's Reinhardt? What's he up to? Right?
I mean, that's the other thing. Like, I mean, one of the real yardsticks of Subaru's development is his like evolving relationship with all of the other main character men around him, and how he starts out being super jealous of them. And then, like, first he gets along with Reinhardt because you can't not get along with Reinhardt, right? The real yardstick is by the time he likes Julius as a person.
Yeah.
That is the precise, like, okay, he's cool now. In the same way, man, I want to talk about Don to Don, but it's going into the manga, and I don't know if I can. Like,
Don't.
Subaru's male relationships here are very funny. Whether it's like Otto or like Wilhelm, like Subaru, the way Subaru like treats men and women is, again, where I come from in terms of my, like, maybe not negativity, but like my thinking less of him. But it's such a great yardstick, but it's also very charming to see. He is so good at dude relationships. And yeah, when he does, like, of course, him and Julius are eventually going to become bros. You can see that in their, like, enemies to lovers situation going on, right? But, like, no, the extended cast, the fact that there's probably 40 characters in ReZero that I can say I unironically and wholly love and embrace is why I'm like hearing you, Tristan, about the witches, because I love all the witches.
I want them. I want more.
but like,
I want more.
Is Capella not as good as any witch? Is her scenery chewing not amazing? Is
okay, here's the thing.
Is Sirius
is
Sirius with her insanity? Is
I
Regulus
would still I'm not getting into Regulus. I would I there are a lot of things about Capella I do like. Also because I think she's like one of the best villains that ReZero has introduced. But I would still, if you said, hey, you can either have an episode about her backstory and like a dedicated episode to her, or I could have a dedicated episode about Minerva, I would take Minerva every goddamn day.
Sure, but I would say that I would say if you asked me, like, without knowing better, would I want to see an entire episode of Subaru talking to Rem? I'd say, of all characters, Rem? No. But that's like one of the best 23 episodes of TV I've ever seen in my life, right?
Yeah,
like
23 minutes.
The episode where those two are just talking about their feelings is
one of the best episodes of season
TV.
1. Yep.
Yeah, just I mean, I think you could make a peak anime episode out of a conversation between almost any two characters in ReZero.
You could make you could make a 4-coma adaptation of how the witches react to all of the events. Okay, so
Subaru or Amelia and almost any character in ReZero.
Yes,
just having a frank conversation for 23 minutes would be peak television. I also think there's a few combinations that could work independent of that. There has been an entire light novel about Krush and Felis, for example.
Of course. Well, of course. Which is like, when you're watching ReZero, you're like, oh, can we have a spinoff about these two? Oh, can we have a spinoff about this faction? Oh, can we have a spinoff about, like, I've never felt that way about a piece of media, because normally I'm like, no, the author's vision is exactly perfect. And now I'm like watching this, I'm like,
no, it's not.
Actually, no.
You want to know?
Can we get a whole prequel series about Wilhelm? Please?
You want to know? Okay, no. You want to know how? We already know. We have absolute definitive proof that the author's like main storyline is perfect. It's not. And the author themselves have proven it because they have all of the freaking If light novels that go off in different freaking directions.
So in the If, I don't know, Miles, do you know that in the What If light novels, there is a What If light novel for every single Sin Archbishop, a storyline where Subaru becomes that Sin Archbishop, and how he transforms into that character, both lore-wise and his character arc, which is genius.
They're all
because
great.
Every Sin
short
Archbishop,
stories.
every Sin Archbishop represents some kind of psychopath that you would find on 2 Channel. It's like,
what a description.
So genius.
And I want all of those adapted too, by the by. They're all great.
I mean, like, I would imagine a talk show with Wilhelm just drinking tea with literally any character for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I
or
can probably...
Puck making fun of anybody.
Man, Puck doing Caro's Corner.
I guess I can kind of then wrap up, like, one of the reasons why I'm disappointed in like parts of season 3 is that I feel like I am so starved because there are all of these characters that I want more of and I'm not getting it. And it bothers me because it's like, it took 4 years to get season 3. And I know that season 4 is going to come around quicker because it's like it's on its way. They've already told us, but it's like a part of me is still one of those. Are we going to get these things that I want? Are we going to get any like continuation of particular side story characters? I don't know. And I really want that. And it's I don't know if it's depressing, but it's just frustrating to me.
Tristan.
I can't enjoy what I have because I'm not getting what I want.
Season 2 should have taught you to trust the process, and I'll tell you exactly.
I trust the author, and I would trust the light novel. I'm not trusting the anime.
No, hold on. Do you not trust White Fox, the studio that literally every member of the staff is going above and beyond for every little thing, where they are losing money by making episodes longer, where they are like causing problems because they want to do a compelling version of the most compelling version of the story possible? Are you saying that the anime studio and the incredible directors and writers and animators are not making sure that this is the most peak possible adaptation of an already peak story?
Peak story, yeah. But more to the point of trial.
Like with my favorite isekai ever, the best isekai ever, I'm worried, as much as it is working now, knowing that it has been around for almost a decade, Miles, and we're not even halfway through the story, I am worried we are not going to get a finished adaptation.
They're picking up the pace of the adaptation. They've already guaranteed the next season.
But like, there's...
Yeah, so that's... Like, I understand from that perspective, although someone could always read the light novels, and the light novels are very good.
It's true.
Right?
The light novels are there. You could read the web novel. I'm pretty sure there was a web novel first for ReZero. Yeah, you could read the web novel if you want.
They'll probably make a manga if the anime doesn't fully go through.
No, I don't want them to do that for very similar reasons.
As long as they keep selling REMs, and they will keep selling REMs. As long as they keep selling REMs, as long as they can keep making pachinko machines, this anime will get done.
Flashback to that time when we were looking at stuff in our Japan arc, and we got to that one store that just had a whole line of not ReZero, just Rem. A whole freaking aisle.
Which begs
just
the question.
Rem.
Tristan, Geoff, best girl?
Rem. If not Rem, because too obvious or too common. If not Rem, Beatrice.
I mean, I want to say the meme and just say I love Amelia, and Amelia is pretty close to best girl. But I mean, this new season's made it very complicated. Like, the more time I get to spend with every girl, the more difficult a question that becomes. And it's
made even better because Rem's not there.
I mean, in the first season, it was
They had to
Rem,
remove her. She
Julia,
was too powerful.
or if you had really good taste, Rom.
Elsa.
But
Elsa
is the correct choice. And actually, Elsa is what I was going to say about trusting the process, because they held off on Elsa for so long, and then season 2 brought her back in the most ballin' possible way. And then season 3 has continued to play with Elsa in very interesting ways that have completely divorced her from her initial context in the story.
See, I don't like Elsa in season 3 though, but that's just me.
I mean, they kind of undermined her. Like when you say divorced her from where she is, I don't feel like it's the same character, which is a little disappointing. But like, I'm trusting the process. I am trusting the process.
But I mean, even if it's not the same character, it makes sense why it wouldn't be, because it is a representation of Garfield's mental hangups.
Yeah.
But yeah, best girl, I go back and forth, right? Like I'd say Rom a lot of the time, because like I like her sass, right? I think she is the superior sister. And if you don't like doormats, then
I think Rem as a doormat is like really underselling her character.
No, I know. I'm trying
like,
to bully Tristan. Yeah, but like Rom's comedy game is amazing.
Oh no, she's best with backhanded sarcasm. I love it.
Yeah, but I mean, if I had to like, man, this new season, like, I would let Priscilla step on me, but then there's Minerva. But I mean, Capella was very much, every time I saw her on screen, I was like, I'd let her kill me. I would let her murder me.
Except here's the thing. I would let her kill me because that would be the best possible ending compared to everything else she could do.
Oh yeah. She is terrifying, but I would let her kill me. Oh but like, I think still Amelia in my heart of hearts is like the thing is, Amelia starts as like,
I will let you pick Amelia, I suppose.
No, gosh, that. Yeah. I mean, Beatrice is good, but like the thing is, like Amelia,
so great. I love Pasko.
Amelia feels like a plant, like an industry plant waifu at the start. She feels like so forced, and then like you really start to understand her character. I mean, she's the main character of ReZero. As much,
she also has the best line
Subaru
in season 3.
But like she's such a compelling heroine, gone through so much, and like her development as a character is extremely, like, it parallels Subaru in so many ways. Her like push to trust and believe in the best of people despite everything that she's seen is beautiful. She's a wonderful person.
I was really worried after season 2, when we got so much great Amelia development, that season 3 we'd be like, oh, she's done now. And then season 3 is like, oh no, now she's main protagonist with Subaru, which is where she kind of always belonged. It feels so right.
Now she gets her best arc right alongside him getting his best arc. Man, I got the moment where he like gives that speech to the town and just inspires everybody. Like, that would feel so cheesy in almost any power fantasy thing, any isekai thing, but it feels so well earned that he's like, I've been through it. I'm scared. I'm like quaking in my boots, but I have to do this, and I'm going to do it because someone's got to do it. Right? Is just like, if Sung Jin-woo said that, I would roll my eyes and walk away from the TV right there. But Subaru, it works. He's earned it. He's earned that speech. God, season 3 was so good. There is kind of one more point that, on a very personal level, I want to talk about with season 2, because it's kind of like, because season 2 hit me really personally, and like I love Subaru's arc through season 2, right?
Yes.
How the whole theme of dealing with parents and abusive parents, and like the anxiety and pressure to become a parent that you look up to, right? You know,
Become like
there's
his dad,
all those
specifically.
to become like his dad, and then Roswaal representing the like dark inversion of that, the like dark father figure that he could become, Echidna being like the evil mom. But like the reason that ReZero season 2 is it's like cemented in my heart, specifically like the father and child episode, is like I was watching that while I was watching that show, while it was coming out, my dad was dying in hospital.
Oh,
right?
yeah, that does line up, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, he was hospitalized that summer, like right when ReZero season 2 was about to start. And then like a couple weeks after the end of the season, I believe, was when he like was when he passed. So it really I was going through a lot of the same stuff that Subaru goes through in Parent and Child, specifically the like struggling with saying goodbye. And I mean, he had a stroke, so it was already difficult to like communicate. So it like, you know, the struggle to say goodbye, but also the Subaru's the only one who's going to remember that conversation, right? And it's just such a...
It's not a real conversation. He's not actually talking to his dad.
I mean,
he is, but he's the only one who's going to carry that forward, and
got to carry that weight.
You know, it's all. I mean, he's got to carry that weight, but it's also, in a sense, kind of all for him, right? Because I mean, it's always been.
Yeah, it's not like he's trying to talk to his dad. He's talking to the idealized version of his dad within his own head that he's trying to...
Echidna brings out like his dad, right? It's his full memories, his subconscious memories. It is a reflection of his real parents. And they say not just what he would want them to say, but they say what they would really say to him in that scenario if he had the courage to confront them that he now has. Like, I mean, it's beautiful in so many ways that, like, you know, his parents are gone, but he gets this chance to talk to them, but it's really only for him. He doesn't get to give them that closure. And they're still, you know, in the other world. What's the name of the writer? Tape Nagatsuki has talked about this before, that they are out there, they're wondering where he is. And that's, you know, that's a whole
devastating,
really devastating concept.
Something my wife brought up when I was talking about ReZero, you know, in preparation for the show, was that Tristan and I had just had kids when that episode came out.
Yeah.
Like,
and that must hit a completely different way, you know, like you're looking at it. But I mean, it really, like, I think the philosophy encompassed in that season, parenthood needs to be a completely selfless act. It's not something you do for you. It's something that you do for your kid, right? And like, that is the difference between a good parent and an abusive one, you know, because there's Echidna and Roswaal, who both want to shape Subaru into a reflection of themselves, right? And like, it kind of speaks to it, you know, like, I'm coming at it from the perspective of, you know, like, someone who had to say goodbye to his dad at the time that was coming out, right? Like, I was not thinking about it. I was very deliberately not thinking about that, and thinking about, like, okay, well, you know, once he's out of hospital, you know, once he gets better,
then everything will be fine.
And the episode, like, it hit me like a truck. And it made me really have to think about, you know, what I'd say when the time came and stuff, and, you know, how I'd say goodbye. And it, like, it really made, you know, I'm really grateful to the show to give me that chance to consider my words in advance of what happened. Not like, it was like a month after I made my parent and child video essay, somewhere around there, that it just, like, it happened, and I had to I was in the middle of working on another video essay. I had to drop what I was working on, and like, we got the call, and I was in denial about it for a bit. I was like, no, I gotta keep working, and we'll go in a couple hours. And Yazy was like, it's happening now. You gotta go now. You gotta drop this. And I was like, shit. But because I'd had that time to process it, I was able to have like a really good last conversation, and that meant a lot to me. But like, you guys came at the episode from the complete opposite perspective of like new fathers, thinking about how you are going to shape your kids, right? And I'm sure that hit you very differently.
Very differently,
yes. There's so much in it, right? And I think, Tristan, I understand where you're coming from, where you're like, you want it to move along, right? Because you want more of this story. You want more.
I don't want to. No, it's not that I want it to move along. That makes it sound like I want it to get to other things. I like what we have. I just want more. I am selfish. I am greedy. I want more, Geoff. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I want more because what we have is garbage. It's not. It is absolutely not. I just want more of it. And I don't like the idea of waiting years and decades to get it.
My biggest thing about all of your feedback about ReZero, Tristan, is that it's going to age poorly because once part 4 or the season 4 and season 5 come out, everything you say is going to be like, yeah, good thing ReZero delivered exactly what you needed, wanted, and didn't know you wanted.
I know. That's the thing.
Which is so funny about this series. Like, we need to ramp this up, which is to say, is this making the list? This is literally on Geoff's top 3. It's in my top 10, which I actually just changed. It was like number 12 or 13 before this conversation, and I moved it up during this call. Like, I'm like, no, wait, it's on the list. Top 10. This is top. I mean, also, I did watch season 3 since we talked about it.
Yeah.
Like, honestly,
I mean, yeah, since we made the list, it's moved into my top 2 with season 3.
If it was just season 1, it'd still be in the book. Like, it'd still
be in my top 10 with just season 1.
Yeah, no. It's great. There is no argument that I think any of us could make that it would not be on the list. And I think 100 episodes down the line, when we're finally being like, this isn't going to, like, when we're finally like trying to pare things down, I do not see a world that this is not on the list in any way, shape, or form.
And Tristan, it's pretty high up for you. It's like number 30 on your rough draft, which again, we made these rough draft lists.
Very rough draft. It is pretty high up though. Yeah.
But all 3 of us, it's one of the few shows that we entirely agree deserves a spot on greatest anime of all time list, and it will be extremely high, I think.
I think bare minimum if we top 15.
Yeah.
I could see
that. I'm going to push for top 10. I'm going to push very hard for top 10.
But I mean, the top 10 is going to be an interesting contention when we get to it. But I can see it being there.
Yeah.
It is definitely in contention.
It is a worthy consideration for the top 10 greatest anime of all time.
Absolutely.
And I don't think they can Game of Thrones it either.
The only way they Games of Thrones it is by not adapting the ending at all, which is a big possibility. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Next time on Quest for the Best, Cromarty High School.